Hello everyone and welcome back to My Opinion. Another great game in the IPL today. Match 4 being between the Lucknow Super Giants and the Gujarat Titans. Both these teams playing their first game in the IPL, and despite the fact there was only one winner, both teams would be taking and they would be able to take positives out of this game. And the Gujarat Titans winning this game by 5 wickets. So, regarding the starting 11s for both teams, I'm going to first start off with the Lucknow Super Giants as they were more affected by player availability. They would have wanted to play Marcus Stoinis and Jason Holder in their full strength 11, but they weren't available for this game. So Evan Lewis had to bat at number 3 with Manish Pandey being pushed down to number 4 and Ayush Baldwani batting at number 6. So I think that probably going with 2 bowling options lights than their full strength 11. But apart from that, some fairly expected 11 in terms of personnel. And I think that I'd not really seen Mohsin Khan bowl at all before this game, so I was looking forward to see how he would go. Then the Gujarat Titans, probably a fully expected 11, really. I mean, along with CSK, this is the side that aren't really affected by player availability at all. And if there was one change they would maybe think of making without compromising on their full strength 11, which this is, if they wanted to play just 3 seamers and play 2 frontline spinners, and this is if they wanted to do that, then considering Hardik Pandya bowled 4 overs today, you could maybe play Sai Kishore instead of Varun Aaron, and that would give that second frontline spin bowling option. But even if they didn't want to do that, I would say that's the only change you could think that would be possible without compromising on the strength of this 11. Apart from that, this is probably their full strength 11. So the Titans won the toss and chose to bowl first. And what a power play they had, courtesy of Mohammad Shami. 3 wickets, only conceding 10 runs. And the 3 wickets that he got, KL Rahul, Quinton de Kock and Manish Pandey, neither of which you could say were at fault for their dismissals. Maybe Manish Pandey's shot wasn't too great, but the ball did seam in slightly. Maybe that had something to do with it. So I think so. The first delivery of the game was actually a wicket. KL Rahul caught by an absolute Jaffa, caught behind of Mohammad Shami, and he was dismissed. Quinton de Kock 2 overs later dismissed by a delivery that seamed in sharply. And the 4th wicket to fall was a 3rd wicket for Mohammad Shami. The ball seaming in slightly and the kind of taking a middle and off stump. Manish Pandey was dismissed. So those 3 wickets, along with the fact that Varun Aaron had got the 3rd wicket of the game in the form of Evan Lewis, where Evan Lewis tried to pull Varun Aaron over the mid-wicket area, and Shubman Gill took an excellent running catch, so 32 for 4 in 6 overs. And before I proceed, I think Mohammad Shami's performance, we've kind of seen 3 cases of so far in these 4 games where you've got 3 bowlers who there's a volatility associated with them in the T20 format, especially with 2 of the bowlers I'm going to mention, and I'm going to mention the 3rd one later. Well, so kind of after these 2. Umesh Yadav and Mohammad Shami, I think that certainly their strengths being bowling with a new ball, but they go for runs to the death, especially Umesh Yadav. So their strengths being quite strong, their weaknesses being quite weak. And I think if you look at both these 2 in their first games, bowling 3 overs in the power play in the same venue and both bowling first, really setting the tones for their sides. And I thought it was going to be hard for someone to really even match, let alone better, the performance that Umesh Yadav gave against CSK with the way that he bowled with a new ball. But Mohammad Shami somehow managed to better that, an unplayable spell of bowling, 3 wickets where you would not fault the batsman for the dismissals at all. And the 3rd bowler who I was going to mention being Basil Tampi, he was a good kind of a death bowling option a few years back, but then he tapered off and we haven't really heard from him since then. And he was picked by the Mumbai Indians for this year, people not knowing what to expect, but a very good outing for him in that previous game. 3 wickets, conceding 35 runs, yes, but 3 wickets in integral phases of the innings and 3 brilliant players. Prithvi Shaw when he was going great guns, Rovman Powell when he just walked in the 2nd ball he was dismissed, and Shardul Thakur when he was playing a really good cameo was also dismissed. So you've got 3 bowlers who there'll be a certain volatility associated with them when they're bowling in the T20 format, but they really stood up for their franchises in their respective first games. And the Lucknow Super Giants tottering at 32 for 4 in 6 overs. And this was a bad thing for two reasons. One, their top four that they would have wanted to get the bulk of the runs being dismissed for effectively nothing. And two, they don't have any batting depth. I mean, after those top four, Deepak Hooda, Ayush Baldoni, Krunal Pandya. And the thing is, after that, after 4 wickets fell, you had Deepak Hooda and Ayush Baldoni batting together. So only one more recognised batsman left in the side, being Krunal Pandya. And then you've got the bowlers, and considering they had Lockie Ferguson and Rashid Khan to bowl, you kind of think the bowlers would be batting fairly soon. But they weren't batting fairly soon, because from 29 to 116, it was a great partnership between Deepak Hooda and Ayush Baldoni. It first started off quite slow, lots of dot balls, and I think it was 36 for 4 and 8.2, so something had to give. And for both batsmen, they really the door opened for them to switch gears when they hit runs off the same bowler at different points in the innings. The first being Deepak Hooda, and this was actually when the over during which the score crossed 50. He had 2 boundaries of Hardik Pandya. He was still scoring at less than a run a ball at that stage, but they opened the door to switch gears. And for Ayush Baldoni, playing fairly kind of a second fiddle, quite second fiddle in this partnership. So rotating the strike, but also really taking up deliveries at 11 of 21 balls. And the way that he really, once again, opened the door to switch gears in another Hardik Pandya over where he scored a few boundaries. And this is a great partnership, an important one, and it was going really well until the wicket of Deepak Hooda fell off Rashid Khan, leg before wicket. A great innings of 55 of 41. And as good as this partnership was, I think the innings from Krunal Pandya, 21 of 13 balls unbeaten, and Ayush Baldoni kicking on as well to score 54 of 41 balls was so important, because the lack of batting depth meant that if either Baldoni or Krunal Pandya had got out, and especially Baldoni, the set batsman, got out, the bowlers may have ended up getting out on one end fairly quickly, meaning that all that rebuild would have been for nothing. But 158 for 6 in the end, and a magnificent recovery considering a side with no batting depth and facing the attack that they were facing after losing their top 4 for virtually nothing in the power play. So, well done to them. Brilliant performance from Deepak Hooda, Baldoni and Krunal Pandya as well. And Baldoni probably wouldn't have got into the side if Jason Holder and Marcus Souness were playing, and so considering that he's really played this knock against this kind of an attack when his team were in this kind of a situation, he's shown that he can do it. And I think that I think it would have been a great confidence booster for him and the management, knowing that they've got a player who can really provide the goods in this kind of situation if kind of the other starters aren't available. And I'd like to talk about the Gujarat Titans bowling. There are 3 spearheads, Mohammad Shami, Lockie Ferguson and Rashid Khan having stellar days. Yes, Shami went for 15 in his last over, but honestly, he probably nullified that in his first 3 overs. And 3 for 25 and 4 overs for him. Lockie Ferguson, none for 24. Rashid Khan, 1 for 27. So brilliant days for the spearheads, but 2 bowlers had off days. Varun Aaron's known to be expensive in this format, but Hardik Pandya, I think another thing, despite the fact that he conceded runs, was that probably Deepak Hooda and Ravi Bishnoi, as I've said for quite a few times now, opened the door for them to switch gears because of targeting him in separate overs that he bowled. And he went for quite a few runs today, especially in his last 2 overs, but a huge positive for the Gujarat Titans would be that he is bowling 4 overs. He's bowled 4 overs in his first time playing cricket in a long time. And let's see how he goes this tournament. So that was on this innings. And also, I know there would have been dew in the second innings, which there was, but based on what we saw in the first game, when KKR were 87 for 3, even the best player of spin in the world did struggle for timing. And I think that in that case, it was way too low of a score to defend. But 158 bowling against an on paper kind of a fragile batting lineup, and you've got some bowlers like Ravi Bishnoi who can certainly make inroads. I think the Lucknow Super Giants would have been confident despite the fact that there was dew. So And in the end, they should have probably won the game after being in such a good position in the middle phase of the second innings. So going on to the Gujarat Titans batting innings, straight away after 2 wickets falling fairly quickly, you thought, what if their worst fears are coming true for the batting side? The fragility that on paper their batting app seemed to show. Shubman Gill dismissed on the third ball of the innings, trying to kind of charging Dushmantha Chameera, trying to go over a long off, but being kind of skying the ball and being caught by Deepak Hooda. And on Dushmantha Chameera, I think, and I'm going to say this after I talk about the second wicket, a magnificent just manipulation, setting up Vijay Shankar with 2 bouncers, then the delivery on the hard length, and afterwards a searing Yorker. Vijay Shankar pretty much had no clue, an unplayable delivery. And I think on Dushmantha Chameera, we've seen him bowl so well in the power play quite a lot, and the problem with him is his death bowling. And it's not only on whose shoes he's trying to fill, because Mark Wood, if he was available, would have been absolutely brilliant at the death along with Avesh Khan. And the fact that you've got someone who isn't really strong at the death at all and has not been so throughout his whole career so far, it also puts more pressure on Avesh Khan. And today he had an off day. Yes, he's very young in his career. When he was at Delhi Capitals, he was bowling alongside Rabada and Nokia. Whereas now, without Mark Wood in the side, the fact that he has to lead the death bowling duties, I think that would that put a bit of pressure on him? Maybe. And yeah, let's see how he goes as well. So Mark Wood's absence has affected that particular slot, and you'd say an Avesh Khan as well, as he has the extra responsibility now. But certainly with the new ball, Dushmantha Chameera has shown how good he is, and yesterday he also did that. A partnership was needed, and you'd say as good of a player Shubman Gill is, in this side you'd think Hardik Pandya, Matthew Wade. They'd probably be the ones who they are great finishers in an innings, but also considering they were batting, Matthew Wade opening the batting, Hardik Pandya number 4, which I think is right for this side, taking responsibility of those two. And you'd think they'd be the most confident players in the side based on their recent T20, especially Matthew Wade and Hardik Pandya with the reputation he has being captain as well. Shubman Gill, yes, you can expect quite a bit from him, but especially as the standout players in this lineup, you'd probably think Wade and Hardik Pandya, especially in this game, was integral for them to have a partnership and probably bat through for quite some time before taking the attack to the bowlers. The partnership started off quite well, especially for Hardik Pandya, getting 19 runs off his first 10 balls, but after that only scored 14 off his next 18 balls, including a 6 in that as well. And I think that was pretty much because of the first 2 overs from Ravi Bishnoi and then 4 overs from Krunal Pandya. What I really liked about Krunal Pandya's bowling today was the variation in speeds. He did bowl those quicker deliveries that we know that he does bowl, but he also bowled deliveries in that kind of the 80 odd kilometer mark. I remember the delivery kind of an 81 kilometer mark that I'd never seen him bowl at that speed ever. So I think with the adjustment of speeds also shown in this innings, which I'd never really seen before. He hadn't really had to do that before, but I really think outstanding bowling from him, 1 for 17. And dismissing Hardik Pandya as well, considering, look, however, the fact that the strike rates Wade and Pandya were going out weren't exactly that high, you would have thought that they could easily flip the switch with how quality the finishers they are as well. And chasing 159, I mean, you would say at no stage was the run rate seeming to be in an unmanageable position when they were batting, despite the fact that they weren't going too quickly. So they got Hardik Pandya was dismissed in the end off Krunal Pandya, trying to go for a delivery that wasn't, you would say, a bit fuller. And he knew straight away when he hit it, and he was caught by probably the best outfielder in India in Manish Pandey. And after that, Matthew Wade also dismissed by Deepak Hooda, who probably didn't expect to get a wicket, was probably bowled because of the right arm off spinner bowling to the left-hander. A wild hoik from Matthew Wade, and he was dismissed with 30 off 29. So I think the fact that these two went fairly slowly would probably then the scoreboard pressure started to tick in the moment these two were dismissed, because as long as these two were there, you thought they could make up for it quite easily. But the moment they were dismissed in quick succession, you thought, Also, with the consistency issues of David Miller and Rahul Tewatia, you never quite knew the game was really on a knife edge at that stage. And this was certainly a point for the Lucknow Super Giants to capitalize. I thought that really they should have won this game from that point onwards. But instead, the bowling just tapered off. The last 2 overs of Ravi Bishnoi, I think they do really showed. He also didn't get the lines right, bowling the leg spinner to Rahul Tewatia, especially twice bowling to the leg side, being helped over short fine leg for boundaries. And the pacers, also Avesh Khan having an off day at the death. Deepak Huda, the game turned once more when David Miller and Hardik Pandya were Rahul Tewatia were kind of hitting singles up to the third over of Deepak Huda, when 22 runs were hit off that over. I understand. Okay, you may think, right, they bowled. Maybe they bowled him for an over too many, but I think they wouldn't have wanted to give David Miller that pace on at the start, and he wasn't really going aggressively when the pace wasn't given to him. So I understand why Deepak Huda, who had bowled 2 good overs before then, was given the ball. But 22 runs really set David Miller off, really set the chase off once again for the Gujarat Titans. And the Pacers also not going too great at the end. Even the likes of Avesh Khan, who, as I said, will the pressure tell on him, considering he's the main death bowling focal point in the season. Mohsin Khan, I thought, look, he at a left arm quick and bowled quite quick, 143 kilometers per hour. Only bowling 2 overs was expensive, but he seems like a good commodity. I just think maybe that's just a bias, a left arm seamer bowling quick, but it is quite a good commodity, and I'm not going to judge him too much on this one game, only with 2 overs, but certainly with the pace that he's got being a left armer, they could maybe just bring the best out of him in future games. And I just think the bowling tapered off quite a bit. Yes, there was a wicket of David Miller. And then it says Abhinav Manohar, and in the actual game it said, I think, Abhinav Sadarangani. Either way, he played brilliantly, 3 fours, 15 off 7 balls. He's been talked about as this finisher from Karnataka, and today, with the way he hit Avesh Khan especially the 3 boundaries that he scored, I think he showed why he has that tag. And the one positive we got from the Gujarat Titans today was that with all the fragility they have in their batting lineup, if the players that you would have thought wouldn't have shown much consistency before, if they do show more consistency like David Miller and Tewatia, you've got a side where Matthew Wade and Hardik Pandya being the more versatile players who can bat for quite a while through the innings and then explode. Shubman Gill, a quality player at the top. They need something from Vijay Shankar, and he's quite experienced now. I think that, they really need something from him at that number 3 stop. Because if he fires, you've got real versatile players in Matthew Wade and Hardik Pandya, and David Miller and Rahul Tewatia and Abhinav Manohar, they can all take attacks apart. But Abhinav Manohar, I don't know too much about him, but he certainly today, he set a very good impression. And even if he hadn't, I wouldn't have really judged too much anyway, because it's only his first game, the nerves would have been showing. And David Miller, Tewatia are playing really well today, and they've got a lot of power hitters in this side. If Miller and Tewatia can deliver more consistently, and you've got Matthew Wade and Hardik Pandya having kind of regularly big partnerships together, the likes of Shubman Gill having a good season as well, you've got players who can bat through the innings, especially the likes of Gill, Matthew Wade, and Hardik Pandya, and then explode at the end. So, along with the more power hitters that you'd say would prefer batting in the latter phase of the innings, like a Tewatia and a Manohar, even a Miller coming in slightly ahead of those two. The power hitting in the side looks good. The problem is, will they be as consistent? That is the main issue. And considering what we've seen from Miller and Tewatia in the past few seasons, we've seen that consistency just is not their thing. Miller from 2014 has basically done nothing in the IPL, and Tewatia in the last 2 seasons has had probably 1 good game. So the consistency is the issue, but if they are consistent, they have got the power hitters if there is a good platform to build on, and they have got the bowling attack that they have got. So certainly positives from the Gujarat Titans, and also from the Super Giants as well. I think despite all the due, Krunal Pandya and Bishnoi for his first 2 overs bowled as if there wasn't any due. Avesh Khan had an off day, but with the death bowling duties, but certainly I'm sure he will bounce back. Dushmanta Chamira once again bowling really well at the start. Deepak Huda bowling 2 good overs. Yes, I know he went for 22 in his last over. And Mohsin Khan, I mean, I hadn't really seen any of him bowl before this. I just think simply the fact that he's a left arm quick, bowling quite quick, really. And yeah, I just think that if he could build on this, I know he only bowled 2 overs and you can't really judge too much from this game. But if he can build on this, then you never know. So also the recovery from the batting as well, considering someone who they probably wouldn't have even played in the 11 with everyone available, scoring 54. Yeah, I really think both sides having positives to take from this game. And yeah, tomorrow the Sunrisers Hyderabad versus the Rajasthan Royals, both those teams playing their first games in the IPL. And let's see how that goes. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Please share the video with your friends. And remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?